In this video, we'll learn to add a faint sheen to the skin and add some glossy lipstick using a roughness map. This is a part of a series that goes through all the steps it takes to make a character in Blender. If you haven't been following along, all you need is a UV'd character and you're good to go. Here is an example of the kind of roughness map we're going to make. So with this roughness map, the lips are kind of semi-glossy and the skin is barely glossy with kind of a speckle pattern. You can see, if you watch closely here, I'll turn it off. So now it's completely matte. If you turn it on here, you can see the lips, of course, get shiny and the skin gets very faintly shiny. And it gives a nice sheen to the skin, a very faint sheen, and it makes the lips look glossy and luscious. So that's what we're going to do. And the fun part is we can paint it directly onto the character and we can see the glossiness as we're painting it. Okay, so let's get started. Let's get set up to do some texture painting. So we'll go to our texture painting workspace. Let's make a shader editor here. Shader editor. Hit N to get rid of that. And let's hide the hair because we don't need that for now. So let's hide that. Let's turn it off. And let's go to object mode, grab our skin so we know this is the correct material. And let's add a shader or a texture for our roughness. So Shift A, S-I-M-A for image texture. Click that there. We'll click new. We'll call this AUT-rough. And we'll make this 4K. 4096. Okay. And then make this non-color. Plug this into the roughness. And let's get that one here too. Autumn rough. Okay, then let's go over here to our, let's see, texture painting. Let's grab the head and texture paint. And make sure we're on Autumn Rough. Not these guys, but this guy here. Let's change the world from this all white scene to something more normal so we can see reflections in the skin. So we'll go to world mode here and we will plug in this thing we had from before. And this will be easier to see the highlights in the skin. Let's put this back to object. And let's give a good foundation for the shininess of our skin. Right now it's too glossy. So let's do this. Let's turn the roughness all the way down to 0 and plug back in our roughness map. Okay, let's turn the specular up so we can see it a little better. The specular just increases the effect of the light reflections in the roughness map. So let's put this to here. And the way the roughness map works is if it's dark, it's very glossy. If it's white, it's less glossy. So let's go to the end panel here and pick the paintbrush here, the fill tool here. Let's make this desaturated and make it light gray and click right here. And it should update our roughness map so she has a slight sheen to her skin. Let's just make sure she's got a slight sheen, so I'm positioning it so I can catch a highlight. And if we take off the map, you can see it's much more matte. If we plug it in, it's just faintly glossy. And so that'll be a good foundation to start with. Let's go to image and save it as Autumn Rough. Let's go back to our brush tool here and let's pick black for a color. So whatever we color black will make it glossy. Let's make some more space for ourselves here. And let's zoom in so we can watch our 2D map as we're working. And let's also pick mirror mode for the brush, so we only need to color half of it at once. And let's get rid of that. Okay, so you just need to brush in a darker value, and it makes the lips glossy. Super easy. Going to turn this thing on here, and let's zoom in on an area so we can focus and rotate around it. Let's just color in some glossiness. Okay, I think that's all right. It's hard to see. It's hard to see because you're looking for the reflections to see it. You can also lower the strength and kind of overlap in between the skin and the lips. So there's a little bit of fuzz going out, like that. Yeah, okay. I think that's all right. You can also color in here too. So you can color in a 2D view or the 3D view, however you want. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. Okay, let's add some randomness to her roughness texture here. So let's go to Tools. We will duplicate this brush. We'll call this A-Skin Rough. And let's make a new texture here. So we'll call this A-Skin Rough. Then let's get a texture map to use that I've pre-prepared for this lesson. I'll give this to you so you can make your own textures. So grab this guy. This is kind of a generic skin texture you can use for your projects. Let's also make the base color the same as our skin, our skin roughness. So we'll hit S and copy that, so this gray is the same color as that. And circuit settings, tiled is good. Turn it off. 10% is fine, mirrors on. Okay, let's just make sure our texture is doing what we want, and it's really hard to see. Okay, so you can see those little dots. So that's what we want. We want the texture to have a faint random feel to it, but the reflectivity or the roughness should be about the same, which I think it is. So then just scale your head about this size, scale your brush to whatever size you want your texture, and just brush it over the whole, all the main skin parts. And it's very hard to see. You can see it in a 2D view here. We've got mirror mode turned on, which is good. But what you can do is you can unplug your skin texture and then lower this color. So it's a lot easier to see. And then you can go and brush it over everything this way. And it's a little bit easier. We might want to also turn off our eyelashes and just get to brushing. It's very simple, but it's very satisfying. I like doing this. So you'll notice when you go over to the ears, you can see the pattern gets much thicker and coarse. That's because the ears, the texture map is much lower resolution, so it doesn't look as good. That's okay. And for me, I'm going to focus more on the parts of the head that you can see. Then when you get to your lips, be careful not to overlap it too much. Okay, let's zoom in here. And then brush it carefully around the lips. Okay. So then for the rest of the body, I usually lower the strength, so it's much more faint. Let's check this to make sure it's very even. And it looks pretty good. Okay, so let's save this. Okay, let's do the same thing for the rest of her body. Let's make sure it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Let's make it a bit smaller. And you can turn this off so you can see it. Wow, I can't see what's going on. If you zoom out or make this brush too big, it really lags. So that's why I'm using a very small circle. Yeah, just go through and just brush it over the whole body. And just check here to make sure it's even. You can change the background to make it so you can see it a bit more. It's not really helping. I'm just checking here to see if there's any blank spots. Looks like there is. Oh, below the neck. Okay. I think that's pretty good. Let's go and put our skin texture back on. And drop the specular back down a little bit. So again, it's really hard to see, but it's actually doing something. Let's go and add some detail to the eyes a bit here. So let's turn that back on. And let's get our regular brush here. So it's it's a soft, let's do this one here. This is the default brush. Just makes a solid line like that. Let's make sure our mirror mode's turned on. Okay. And let's just add some, not super glossy, let's add some glossiness around the eyes here. because usually this part's very moist. Okay, that's pretty good. Make sure it took over here too. Yep, looks okay. Let's also give her some glossy fingernail polish. So let's go and turn this thing back on here and look for our fingernails. So since these are our fingernails, we can just, let's make it darker. There, glossy. Yeah, glossy fingernails. Let's give her glossy toenails. Okay, and let's see how it looks on her. Yeah, shiny. And shiny. Okay. So let's make sure we save this. Image save. And let's lower our specular a little bit here. Let's go to object mode. We can check cycles and see how it looks. Yeah, okay. I think that's all right. So that's it for our tutorial today. I hope you found that useful. If it was, leave a comment to let me know, or subscribe, or better yet, support me on Patreon. And in the next video, we will paint a subsurface scattering map. Thanks.